it's official now. Afrigo has been launched. Let's discuss expectations and how this will benefit our financial ecosystem. Join us now is Dr. Babatunde Obrima, CEO, Fintech Association of Nigeria. Joining us via Zoom. Great to have you on the show. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So it's another first for Africa. First, we had the e-Naira. Nigeria was the first to launch that to central bank digital currency. Now, this domestic card, another one. How much of a game changer is Afrigo?
Well, going by what the central bank and NIBS are planning and the bankers committee, it's going to probably be the dominant card in Nigeria, as it were. It gives everybody the opportunity to make a choice. I mean, so all the existing cards are there and the Afrigo is there. So I think that it's a function of you walk into your bank and if you want Visa or MasterCard, it's 1,000 Naira or 1,005 for the card. Or if you want Afrigo, I don't know what it's going to cost, but let's say it's 500 Naira. So it gives people the opportunity to make a choice and the fees per transaction are going to be less. So I guess that it's just creating competition in the markets, and I think it's good. It's good for the market.
But realistically, what do you think happens in the long run to other card issuers? You know, the global ones like MasterCard, Visa and Verve. Do you think at some point they would have to be phased out of Nigeria?
I don't think so. When you look at the challenge, really, right now it's more of there are foreign exchange issues involved in this, that we have scarce foreign exchange, which is typical when you have in an organization, when there's challenges, you want to downsize, you start to cut down on your costs. And I think that's basically what the central bank is doing. I'm sure that if things improve, it's things that will be probably looked at again. I'm sure in other markets where they operate with, they probably do not have this challenge, but we have a peculiar problem. And I think that's the way the central bank wants to deal with it. And I think it's just, I think that it's for the short term, really. When you look at it, how do we solve a foreign exchange problem? We need to increase revenue, exports, business. So I think that while we're cutting costs, we also need to start to drive growth in that space also. So I guess that as things improve in terms of our reserves, this might be a policy that might be looked at again.
And how do you see this impacting the Nigeria payment ecosystem and, international investors, operating, in this payment space, like the fintechs that keep springing up here in Nigeria?
Well, I mean, it could be a challenge, but at the same time, this is a vibrant market. When you look at investments globally, it dropped by about 50% last year. But for Nigeria, we only had about a 10% drop. 2021, we had $1.3 billion in investments in the fintech space. Last year was $1.2 billion. So when you look at, we're just scratching the surface when it comes to the verticals, things like agri-tech, insure-tech, health-tech, ed-tech, prop-tech. I think that the opportunities for investments are still huge. And with 200 million people, this is really the destination point for investment. So while there might be those challenges, I think Nigeria is still the place to look at if you want to grow fintech business in Africa.
And obviously, we did get, record raises in Africa. That's talking about, Nigeria. But let's look at, security now. Do you foresee any cybersecurity risk with Afrigo?
Oh, well, I mean, cybersecurity risk are a permanent risk for any form of digital transaction. So, I mean, you have it everywhere, so it's a risk that will exist. It's been able to provide the mitigants for it. I mean, as we develop new technologies, the guys at the other end are also developing new ways of trying to break into this system. So cyber is something we have to live with forever, but we can mitigate it by ensuring that we also have better solutions to be able to mitigate. So, I mean, there's no doubt that it will always be there.
And talking about, security, is everything about this card, with what is everything homegrown?
Well, from the feedback, everything is homegrown. I think the only thing that wasn't homegrown about it was the consultant, but everything is homegrown.
Okay, just the consultants were Imported, if I may say. All right, so at this point, we're the first in Africa to actually do this. Do you see, other African countries maybe adopting, Afrigo, or do you think they would want to create their own, going forward?
Well, so when we go by the name, since it's not Nigeria Go and it's Afrigo, I believe that there's a larger plan to be able to make this a regional card. I mean, that's my perception going by the name. So I think that maybe it's up to the NIBs and CBN to try and get other African countries to leverage on this. I believe that, and with PAPs also, maybe they could be actually the solution to part of the regional payments within to support AFCFTA. But I think that, but you never, one of the challenges we've had in Africa that we like silos. So I hope that we can break that myth and work together this time around.
Right. It'll be great to see how it all, plays out. But, from your, vantage point now, where do you see this card going in the next, say, 5 to 10 years?
Wow. I mean, it can only be on the growth path. I mean, that's the only way it can be. And with all the solutions for financial inclusion, I mean, at the back of the card, you have the QR code there, which should help with financial inclusion. It's also an added value. So I think that it can only be on the growth path in the next 5 to 10 years. And we've seen that in other countries that implemented: China, India, Singapore, Brazil. So I think that we're probably going to see the same trajectory as we've seen in those countries here.
And let's look at, adoption now in Nigeria. Obviously, we've seen issues with, the Naira redesign. Some people not, wanting to accept it. But obviously, with this deadline, I believe, everyone would want to accept it. How do you see adoption for Afrigo?
Well, adoption for Afrigo is like almost like no option, because I mean, except the existing players are willing to accept fees in Naira, and the CBN is not willing to pay dollars. That could be only way where adoption could be limited. But as long as that imbroglio is still there, obviously adoption will be high, because that's probably the only card Nigerian banks will be issuing for now.
And obviously, we know banks actually stopped Naira cards from carrying out international transactions. And obviously, this has impacted people that like to, get some of those services, from abroad. But, with Afrigo, do you see it solving this problem?
Well, as long as we have scarcity of foreign exchange, not in the short term, I don't see solving that problem in the short term. But I mean, maybe as things improve, it might have Afrigo being integrated into the global payment system, and that could also solve that problem, maybe in the medium or long term.
And obviously, we have some, fintech companies actually looking to solve, to bridge, this gap with their payment solutions for people that want to make, some of these payments abroad. Do you see that segment being impacted by this?
Well, since as long as they're getting their funding from other markets, not from the official market, I guess they could solve that problem. But I mean, if you're going to get funds from the official market, obviously you will not be able to solve this problem. All
right, we'll keep tracking it. Still early days for now. We'll see how big Afrigo gets in Africa. I want to thank you so much, Dr. Babatunde Obrema, CEO, Fintech Association of Nigeria. Thank you so much for coming on.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
So definitely it'd be interesting to see how it all, plays out, because right now card payment systems are a big issue, and going into 2023, it'd be interesting to see how we solve most of these problems. But